We're going to discuss each policy now. The first macroeconomic objective was sustainable economic growth. ठीक है? Sustainable economic growth. What it is and how can you achieve it? So firstly, when we talk about economic growth, number one baat you should realize is that economic growth is a long run concept. It measures a country's productive capacity okay, so it measures a country's productive capacity. So if you are having economic growth in your country, that means your productive capacity is increasing. Okay, and so this means that more output is produced and consumed, therefore the living standard of the people rises. So this is what you would expect. Okay, now जो टोटल आउटपुट होता है मुल्क का वो मेजर होता है जीडीपी से. ओके, जीडीपी यानी कि ग्रॉस डोमेस्टिक प्रोडक्ट measures the total output produced in a given time period. Now this is happening within an economy. This is how GDP increases. अब economic growth के लिए जो rate निकलता है वो कैसे निकलता है? So let me give you a rough idea. Let's suppose GDP 2020 में एक कंट्री है जिसकी निकलती है, let's say in dollar terms it was about $200 billion की उसका टोटल आउटपुट था. ओके, और उसके अगले साल यानी 2021 की जीडीपी जो निकलती है जो कि फ्यूचर में आएगी, let's say it was 210 billion. So the thing is we want to find out कि इसका economic growth rate क्या है. So economic growth rate is a percentage. ओके, तो अगर हमें इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ रेट निकालना है, सो इट इज़ बेसिकली द न्यू ईयर्स जीडीपी जो इस केस में 2021 है माइनस द ओल्ड ईयर्स जीडीपी divided by the old year's GDP into 100. So when you do that, it turns out you do 210 minus 200 divided by 200 into 100 and turns out it is 5%. This country's economic growth rate is 5%. Okay, sustainable economic, because this was our objective, we want a sustainable economic growth. Now this is a relatively newer phenomenon कि ये sustainable economic growth पहले नहीं बोलते थे. पहले बोलते थे we want a high economic growth. Now we're talking about कि we want a sustainable economic growth, and it occurs when the growth is maintained over a period of time. So it's about maintain karna. And some important aspects of this would be, an important aspect of this is to invest for future generation. So you must talk about sustainable economic growth, make something to do with future economic for future generations. Now it can be investment can be in roads or ports or railways. Now ये obviously infrastructure का हिस्सा है, and other infrastructure to make economy more productive. It can be also like social and welfare investment. Social और welfare investments के अंदर we talk about like example schools, hospitals and clinics. सही है. एंड इसकी वजह से क्या होगा, इसकी वजह से जो है आपके जो लोग हैं वो हेल्दियर होंगे एंड एजुकेटेड होंगे, एंड एज अ रिजल्ट दे विल बी मोर प्रोडक्टिव ऑल्सो. तो ऑब्वियसली द मेन आइडिया इज कि सस्टेनेबल इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ, this will be more future के लिए long lasting and will be beneficial for them. So when we're dealing with economic growth, we do talk about something called the trade cycle. क्योंकि how does economy work over a period of time is our discussion here, and the best way to explain it is through a diagram. Okay, economy over the years, the period of time on the x-axis and GDP on the y-axis. जब हम पोटेंशियल मार्क करते हैं तो पोटेंशियल कुछ इस तरह से दिखता है. पोटेंशियल जो इकोनॉमी के अंदर जो मुल्क की पोटेंशियल जीडीपी है, एंड व्हेन आई से पोटेंशियल का मतलब है कि विद द गिवन रिसोर्सेज, विद द नंबर ऑफ लेबर, with the number of natural resources, with the given amount of capital, machines और buildings वगैरह, तो उसके हिसाब से हम कितना मैक्सिमम, उसका एक नॉर्मल यूज़ के हिसाब से हम मैक्सिमम कितना आउटपुट प्रोड्यूस करते हैं. और पोटेंशियल की अगर तुम लाइन देखो तो बड़ी ही लीनियर सी जा रही है. यू सी इट, इट्स जस्ट गोइंग अप इन अ वेरी स्ट्रेट लाइन. व्हाट दिस मीन्स इज कि पोटेंशियल एक बहुत आराम से एक ग्रेजुअल प्रोसेस है. लेकिन जब हम एक्चुअल जीडीपी को स्टडी करते हैं तो एक्चुअल जीडीपी कुछ इस तरह से साइकिल्स में ऑपरेट करती है. जो रियल के अंदर हम सालाना जीडीपी देखेंगे, ईयरली जीडीपीज जो हमारी आ रही होंगी, दे विल हैव अप्स एंड डाउन्स इन इट. तो व्हेन यू हैव दीज, so for example, this time period when you have a situation, I'm showing this green line, where the actual GDP is more than your potential. This is the time when we're showing कि हमारी जो actual GDP है वो potential से भी ऊपर निकल गई है. Now one would say कि how is that possible कि आप potential से ज़्यादा output कैसे बना सकते हो? But we say you can, क्योंकि potential का मतलब है कि with the normal use of resources. जब आपकी GDP potential is greater than actual, तो आप above potential चले जाते हो. So during this economic boom, when your actual GDP is greater than potential, there are some good things that are happening with some bad things as well. The good thing is that your economic growth is rising. More output is being produced. So people have more stuff to consume. लेकिन unfortunately, it even causes price levels to rise. Inflation is high. That's an unfortunate part. From the employment point of view, you have high employment, which is again a good thing. So this is what you tend to see in a period like this, when the actual GDP is above the potential. It's an economic boom. People are buying cars, getting houses, shopping, traveling, making a lot of money. You see on the road everybody seem happier, buying stuff. Stock markets are going up. Everyone's working, getting higher salaries. It just seems that there's a big party going on and things are just doing really well. But those parties do come to an end. And when it ends, your economic cycle goes below the potential and your actual GDP goes below a good phase. और उस फेज को हम रिसेशन कहते हैं. Recession, you should be able to explain what is a recession. A recession is when the economic growth is going down. It's when deflation, matlab prices are going down. Why? Because people are not able to afford stuff, they're not able to buy things. And there is high unemployment. Unemployment. Resources are not being used. People are not getting salaries, they're getting salary cuts, they're getting fired. Rental properties are empty, nobody's taking them on rent. Factories are not working as they have capacity. Now, deflation means that price level falls. So, like I mentioned, recession is not good for people. It can overthrow governments. It makes governments unpopular. So, to prevent recessions, the government have to come up with policies like they reduce taxes, they start giving subsidies, they try to make businesses easy, or sometimes even like public sector is used to employ workers. Investments are promoted, both private and public. In fact, आप foreign investments भी बड़ा encourage करते हो. You want foreigners to come and invest. जैसे पाकिस्तान के अंदर right now you have this Roshan digital account जिसके अंदर you're telling the people outside that if they want to invest in Pakistan, they can very easily, with just clicks of buttons, they can open uh, an account in Pakistan, a dollar account for foreigners, in which they can easily put in money and they can easily take out money. That brings investment into Pakistan. That's good, okay. And on top of that, they even like give incentive to businesses. ये भी बहुत हो रहा है टेक्सटाइल वगैरह के लिए, इंटरेस्ट रेट्स कम कर देना, बहुत सारे इस तरह के तरीके हैं through which the government wants to avoid going into recession. Alright, because boom is also creating problem, it artificially raises the prices, inflation आती है, resources scarce होते हैं, तो boom को भी कंट्रोल करना ज़रूरी है. Now to slow down economy is also sometimes the government's objective, because inflation आ रही है. उस केस के अंदर आप opposite situation करते हो, indirect taxes को बढ़ा देते हो. सब्सिडीज अगर आप दे रहे हो तो आप सब्सिडीज कम करते हो. गवर्नमेंट्स जो खर्चे कर रही है, गवर्नमेंट्स अपने खर्चे कम करती है ऑन एनीथिंग फ्रॉम पब्लिक वेलफेयर टू इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर स्पेंडिंग, इन सब चीज़ों को, ठीक है. दे माइट इवन डिस्करेज इन्वेस्टमेंट्स थ्रू regulations. Now these are just ways to do it. It doesn't mean that government is going to follow each and every procedure over here. Method called